Hi, so my name is Eduardo Terzidis. I'm a permaculture designer, yoga teacher, and in permaculture I do consultancy as well as teaching. Permaculture is it's kind of a life philosophy. It's a holistic approach to life that it's used to design regenerative human settlements. So the reason why I love permaculture is because in putting an effort to design regenerative human settlements, it takes into account literally everything that has to do with human life, and that's the revolution for me. You know, we can't change the world just focusing on agriculture or just focusing on one of the pressing topics nowadays. We need to look at the bigger picture, and so permaculture looks at social dynamics, looks at soil management, looks at water management, animals, people in groups as well as individuals, and it's for the people. You know, there is no international permaculture association that decides what's right and what's not. We talk a lot about appropriate solutions, so whatever makes sense, whatever works, we do it. And you know, we don't care too much about certificates and stamps and governments and stuff, and that's cool. Yeah, I think growing in contact with nature, for me it's really important, because simply means growing in contact with the rhythms of nature and understanding that we are part of nature no matter where we are. And I think definitely growing on a farm helps you do that, because I saw my grandfather growing food and I saw that the food was changing with the seasons. So I was like, you know, there is something about that. And then when I moved to the city, everything was coming from the supermarket and there was no change anymore. You could find strawberries all year round. So for me, that's what it's about, to understand that we are part of something and embodying that in our day-to-day life, which is also totally possible to do in a city, of course, if we want to. For me, connecting to nature is that, not just saying things, but actually seeing them and understanding them and really embodying them and being like, I am in continuous exchange, in continuous reciprocity with the natural ecosystem around me. And that for me is very spiritual, but in a very simple and down-to-earth way. It's like, yes, we are one, and every single act that I carry on in my day-to-day life embodies that. And to do that, we need to kind of do a process of studying this and understanding this back, because we forgot that we are indeed one. So remember that the soil is actually also part of us. Why? When we study the actual science of soil, when we study the actual science of a forest, we understand that really the forest and the soil is an extension of our body. So once we understand that, we're like, well, there is no other way for me to live than to support the ecosystems around me, because that's me as well. In the back of my mind, I always wanted to just go back and live the life I lived with my grandfather on the land, in the farm. And I was like, that's all I want to do. And my family was always like, yeah, but that's what you do when you retire. You know, you need to work, then you retire. And they were like, this is what your grandfather did. You know, he retired and then he went on a farm. And I was like, no, that's not what I want for my life. But then I was like, okay, fine, I'll be an engineer. And I went into working as a researcher, because I was like, I still want to do something good for the world. And working as a researcher, I went into renewable energies, and I was doing quite good. You know, I had a great salary and great career opportunities, but I was like, I remember this one day I was in the Netherlands working in front of my laptop, and then I looked out the window and I looked at my laptop and I was like, I feel so disconnected from what's happening out there. You know, I'm here breaking my brain on super crazy formulas, and it just doesn't feel like this is real. And so, yeah, I started traveling, and then I came across permaculture. And at the beginning, I remember I was like, God, if only I could turn this into my life. You know, this sounds exactly like what I want to do. And I was just full of fear. But then slowly I got more and more into this. And I remember one day I was with a friend of mine who was already a permaculture designer, and I just asked him, I was like, how did you do this? Like, how come you can do this every day? And he was like, you know, one day I just woke up and I decided I was not going to do anything else than permaculture, and it worked. I was like, wow, is it that simple? Really? It's like, yeah, it works. Like, okay, I'll do the same then. And it worked. So yeah, I visited many projects around the world. I went to Australia, New Zealand, Jordan. I studied with many great teachers. I visited projects, so I got inspired. I got to see permaculture in put into practice in many different ecosystems. And then I came back here and I started to do it. Yeah, my book Lost on the Right Path is something that's really precious to me because I wrote it to kind of put my story to the service of others. I grew up in a family where my ideas were really crazy, like, oh, everyone was always like, what are you talking about? Like this stuff just doesn't exist, you know. So I really had to build all of this on my own, and it's not easy. I myself read books of other people, and I remember reading those books, there was always a sense of disempowerment, because I always felt that people were just sharing how amazing living the, I don't know, nomadic lifestyle, for example, is. But I felt that not so many people share the actually, like the obstacles of it, you know, the fears and ending up without money, and how hard it is to choose to quit everything, leave everything behind, and choose to just live the life you really want to live. So I was like, you know, I'm on the other side of it now, and looking back, I really want my journey to help others. And so the book kind of talks about my story. It's kind of like an autobiography, but also in between my story I kind of weave ideas and concepts of ecology, permaculture, philosophy, spirituality, and so on and so forth. I just decided to analyze my own story and then put it to the service of others.